All right, the purpose of this talk presentation thing, I think mostly for me, is to give everyone kind of a taste of what the workshops will be like, but also just to show everyone how easy it is to get started. And so, as you all probably heard before the break, we selected folks that haven't had any or much experience, with the exception of this gentleman here, with this kind of stuff before. So my hope is to prove to everyone, because I saw a lot of hands raised in terms of people that haven't done hardware before, like, you can do this, and it's really easy to get started. Really quickly, we're going to start off. The foundation of this is the Arduino. Show of hands, anyone know what an Arduino is? Fantastic. So the few of you that don't, it's a little 8-bit microcontroller. It's a very low-end system. They're really inexpensive. A lot of fun to hack on. And then we're also going to be using a breadboard. All right, which isn't actually made of bread. No, definitely not paleo. And that looks like this. And so this also just kind of give everyone like a good foundation of like how you get started and like how you kind of design and program. This is called fritzing. And fritzing is an amazing program because it allows you to kind of diagram what your circuit is going to look like. And so for this particular project, we're only going to use a total of 3 things. We're going to use an Arduino itself. We're going to use this thing, which I still have wrapped up. Maybe you guys can hold up yours. It's an ultrasonic sensor. And it uses sound waves to approximate the distance to the nearest object, which is really cool. A lot of fun. And then an LED. Anyone familiar with LEDs? They're diodes, which means they only allow electricity to flow one direction. And when electricity does flow, they light up. And so there's where the acronym comes from, light emitting diode. Very fun. And then I guess I lied. I mean, we're using these 3 components. We're also going to be using wire, which is made of metal and conducts electricity. So yeah, so here's where we get started. So you guys have a box of wires right there. It's the white box, and you guys can dig into that. And I have some here. Oh, and also for incentive, anyone else who wants to come up, I have Sauce Lab stickers, like fresh out of the bag. So if you're interested, I will set them right here, and everyone, welcome. We have space. So for those of you, I can feel there's some of you that want to come up, but you're not. You're hesitant. I'd like to pressure you to do that. So, all right, so the way we're going to get started is obviously we have our Arduino here. We have our ultrasonic sensor here. Well, how do we hook that up? Anyone? Any suggestions? Wire, right. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and pick, I don't know, red wire? Okay, that's a good call. So as you'll notice, on the top and the bottom of this breadboard, you have a blue and a red line. Any guesses as to what that means? Power, yes. So the red line is VCC, voltage in, and the blue line is the ground, like sink. So that's also known as like source and sink, right? So what we're going to do is, if you notice, there are particular wires right here. Can you see my pointer okay? Yeah. Okay. So these little headers here are made up of various pins that have specific purposes. We have general, I/O pins up at the top, and then we have some analog pins down here, and then we have kind of more like system level pins like, ground, voltage in, and the voltage out. And so our first step, if you haven't already anticipated this, is to take the 5 volt and bring it down here. And as Brian mentioned, it needs to be a red wire. Oh, here we go. Wire color red. Done. All right. We got our red wire. Success. Okay, so now we need, to complete that, right, we need to have ground. And this has 2 ground wires in case you're a little confused. Either one of these pins will work. And you're going to run that to the blue. And I'll give you all just kind of a minute to do that. This is where coming up helps, because you get in on the action. You get to see what's going on. It's a lot of excitement. Plugging wires into breadboards. Is what? I mean, honestly, death is always a possibility. Like, let's be realistic. So, we've done that. Nothing too exciting just yet. But what that does is it supplies our rails with power, so we can start plugging other things in. So now what we need to do is, if you notice down here on our little ultrasonic sensor, it's labeled VCC, ground, trigger, and echo. So we'll start off by just adding some power. And now we're supplying power to our ultrasonic sensor. And then we do the same thing for the ground. And again, we need to color code things properly. So black is ground, red is voltage in. So let's do that too. Oops. Spending a lot of time on the details. It's very important. All right, so we have this sloppily wired up. And you guys doing okay? Any questions so far?
Okay to bend pins on?
You're welcome to bend whatever you like. All right, so again, nothing too exciting just yet, but we're getting there. For this particular purpose, we're going to do something that's a little confusing. This ultrasonic sensor has 4 pins. You really only need 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to bridge the inner 2 pins together. And that's a fancy hack I can explain in the hallway track if people have questions about that. But now that we've bridged these 2 pins, we'll go ahead and put that one pin that we've created up, not there, on pin 3 of our Arduino. And what color should we give it? Anyone? Suggestions?
Purple.
Purple it is. If the menu will come up. Technical difficulties. Purple. All right. Everyone with me so far? Show of hands. Everyone's paying attention? Awesome. All right. That's a good portion of you. Okay. So just to make things nice and neat a little bit here, you can kind of move wires around. Okay. You guys are ready for the next step, or give you a couple minutes?
There's no purple.
Okay. So while you guys are working on that, I'd like to explain the way this works a little bit better. This is the ultrasonic sensor. And like I said, it uses sound waves. And so it runs a 40 kilohertz little click or ping out, and then just like how like bats work, you know, little clicks, and then they hear the sound come back. And you just, normally if you're programming this in C or C++, you'd have to be the one doing the calculation based on the speed of sound, and you have it, and then you divide by like inches or centimeters or whatever, and that'll give you the approximate result of how far away the nearest object is. Well, the really nice thing is that we're using JavaScript, and more specifically Node, which we all know is awesome. But Johnny 5 in particular is what is really awesome for our particular use case, because Rick Waldron, among a bunch of other people, have contributed a bunch of pre-configured, pre-put together objects that you can just instantiate that represent various pieces of hardware. And so what we're going to be working with is the ping. And what's really cool about that is, like, here's an example. We're going to live code this, but like this is literally like, what, 4 lines? And then you've instantiated this little guy on your breadboard with your Arduino, and you can start getting readings from it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And let me check time real quick. All right, well, let's try to hurry this up. Okay, so I'm going to try to catch up with the guys next to me here. By the way, for hardware demos, for best results, don't prepare anything at all. Just come on stage and just, I think the term is wing it? Is that what we're calling it? Okay. So, plug my Arduino in here. The lights will flash. We're getting somewhere, right? All right, so thank you all. That was great. Okay. And I'm going to break into my box of wires here. Forgive me for lack of color coding, but you can look at Fritzing while I do this. And while I'm doing this, by the way, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to just like shout out questions, and I'll repeat them and try to answer them. So I'm going to wire up my power, 5 volts, and my ground. And how you guys doing? Are we all wired up? Ready to start coding? So if you're ready, go ahead and open up your editors. Obviously, we all use Emacs here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Lots of dead air also helps. If you're doing a hardware talk, it makes people really wonder what's going on. So, yes. And this is, to give you more of a feel of what a workshop is like, right? Like, lots of thought going into things, lots of contemplation, not as much talking.
So for fritzing, does it have you have the little sonar module
Mm-hmm.
that comes with it?
It doesn't come with it. The nice thing about fritzing is there's a whole community of people that will build SVG graphic representations of components. So then you can download them, and they come with their little pinouts. And if you notice these little green dots right here, that shows the pinout. So you can actually, I can come up here and click on red, and it'll show me everything that's connected. Yeah, it's very, very helpful. So anyway, so we've got our editors about ready to get opened up, and I'm trying to catch up here. I should have been following along. Forgive me. So, any questions so far, by the way? Yes, we have questions? No? Okay. All right, so at this point, I should be able to plug this into pin 3, and we should be able to get some readings off of it just by copy-pasting code, which is how we all work on a daily basis. So, go ahead and go to Sublime Text here, and I'm going to come in here, and where'd it go? Here. We're going to be like var j5. We'll just call it 5. Yes. There are, do you want to grab it? It's in that little Ninja Blocks box. I brought a bunch of extras because we all know how careful TSA and airline agents are with checked baggage. So they generally die after a couple trips. So we've typed exactly 1 line of code so far. Then we're going to be like, I have a board. Right? So here we are, new 5 board, and then we're just going to be like, board on ready. And also, if I do typos, yell at me as well, because I'm really good at typoing. That's one of my superpowers. So the board's on ready. What do we need to do? What are we working on here? Doing ultrasonic sensor. What's the next step? Anyone?
Don't we need the ultrasonic sensor?
We do need the ultrasonic sensor. That's correct. So let's make a variable for it. All right. And we're just going to be like, ping equals new 5 ping. And what pin did we connect it to again? 3, that's correct. You all advance to the bonus round. And we're just going to be like ping on change. Very descriptive. So let's try this. We'll see. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. So, caps. Yelling is always good. All right, so we've connected. That was cool so far. And we'll give it a minute. Or we won't. 5 minutes already? Jesus. Okay, so this may be completely disastrous, and y'all be like, wow, that was a complete waste of time. But I think you'll get at least some illustration of how cool it can be to make a fool of yourself on stage. Right, so. Yes, where's the fog machine when I need it, right? So, okay, of course. Sorry. Yes. Where are we at so far? You guys have questions?
Mine is working, so in front of his mind for the email.
Okay, sweet. That actually might be a great idea. This is why it's always good to have a ringer on stage with you, because inevitably someone will have figured it out if they actually know what they're doing. So, oh, sweet. Okay, even better. I do. Oh, right. Okay. Why don't we just use your laptop then? Is that okay? Sweet. You can just set it down right there. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely room for improvement in terms of kind of, like being able to actually tell what device you're connecting to with Johnny 5 can be a little iffy sometimes. Yes, all right. I'll just go ahead and exit at this point. Great, so is that not working now? It's working, okay. So this is hopefully going to be a little better idea of what it looks like when things are working properly. And again, with hardware demos, like I said, 1, don't prepare. 2, be as graceful as possible when things don't work, because they never work right. So, okay. So we need to do mirror display. Do you want to do that? Of course, now we're having like native module issues on our lovely guinea pigs. Right. I found normally what they're for is just sitting up here looking really confused. So, all right. So we've jumped ahead a little bit here. David's helped out a lot by actually giving a little bit more idea of how the functionality works. And so, obviously, like we said, this ultrasonic sensor takes readings using sound. And as I move my hand up, you can see the fact that the measurement is getting higher and lower, right? So the original idea that I wanted to take this with is I also have some LEDs, and I basically want to take it to where, if we have time, we can build just a really rudimentary alarm system that lights the LED up when there's a detection of distance change. And I have exactly 50 seconds to do that. So I guess we're gonna probably call this, but again, very, very rudimentary, like kind of basic idea of the fact that, how many lines of code did you write?
I just copied what is on the node.
Right. So within copy pasting, 4 or 5 lines of code, you're able to actually start interacting with the world. And that's kind of the point that I'd like to drive home, and I apologize for the sloppy execution, but again, I'd like to give people a taste of like how easy it is to get started. I'd like you all to get kind of excited and involved in doing more hardware hacking. I'd like to... So yeah, we're going to have a hardware hack, and Kean can probably talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, this afternoon we'll have a workshop, and I'd love for you guys to join, and if you have any questions or if you're curious about any particular aspect of this, I'd be happy to help. I'd like to... You guys can keep your Arduinos, and we can work on it a little later. Anyone else who's interested and doesn't yet have an Arduino, let me know. I've brought a couple extras and some kit. I'd be happy to give it to you if you're interested in playing with this stuff. And yeah, I'd love to see all of you later this afternoon.